First down out to the 44-yard line.
There was almost no negative reaction. It was just widely acclaimed as being a useful tool almost immediately. In part because it was keyed underneath the athletes, and so you really couldn't argue that it was in the way. And in part because it was displaying something that really was helpful to see where the first down line was. I developed this early interest in navigation, and so there was lots of problems that I was able to work on that were very consistent with the field of stuff that I was interested in. And then it turns out that many of the projects that I did after that, the ETAC vehicle navigation, even the graphic enhancements for sports, all of these projects in some ways had to do with making measurements on stuff, figuring out where it is, highlighting it, tracking it, and then in the case of sailing navigation, figuring out the optimum course from there forward. So ETAC was acquired by News Corp in 1988, and it was during that period that I met David Hill, who was then founding Fox Sports. And David had asked me to meet with him every week or so when I was in LA. And so on one of these lunches, I had worked out that it was just barely technically possible to put a simple graphic and insert it into live video of the real world. And David said, if you could put a simple graphic in live video and keep it correctly positioned, could you actually do something useful, like putting a trail behind the hockey puck? So the first guy I called up was Rick Cavallero, who was one of the engineers at ETAC. And 2 years later, in 1996, we introduced it at the All-Star game. And technically it worked very well, but it was a very controversial system. But it did lead to its offspring, which was the first down line, which was far better received. In the case of navigation, you're having to decide where to sail today. And you have to decide, how many extra miles to invest today in order to position the boat to get to the finish the fastest. And so you're having to deal with uncertain data. I think the same thing is true in business. Having had the opportunity to work with the same group of folks that are capable of taking on projects of this difficulty, it's just been by far the richest part of my life.